Hey everybody, so I'm going to show the basics of a titration. Now I don't have a buret with me, so I do have just a flask in which I'm going to perform the titration in. What I want to do first, what normally you do first for a titration, is you add some of the unknown solution, at least the solution with unknown concentration, to the flask. And so what I'm doing is I'm adding exactly 5.00 milliliters of hydrochloric acid to the flask. All right, it's clear, nothing in there, no color. What I'm doing is I'm rinsing my cylinder with a little bit of water, and I'm going to add that to the flask. The water's not going to do anything. It's just I'm just rinsing the cylinder out so I get all of the acid that was in the cylinder in the flask. Okay. Again, if you drink chocolate milk and you down your glass of chocolate milk, there's still chocolate milk in the glass if you just empty the glass. So I rinsed my cylinder with water to get the excess acid that clung to the sides of the cylinder in the flask. So right now I've got exactly 5.00 milliliters of the acid in here. So what I need to do is I want to titrate it with some sodium hydroxide, but I want to add the indicator first. Okay. So again, the indicator is used so that I can determine, or I can figure out when my titration is over. Okay. Because again, if you just neutralize hydrochloric acid with sodium hydroxide, everything's clear. So you're not going to see a color change. So that the indicator is used for the color change. You can see from the the previous clip that the indicator in acid is clear, the indicator in base is dark pink or fuchsia. So what I am doing is I am going to be adding some of the sodium hydroxide into the flask. Now I don't have a buret, so I'm going to go drop by drop and kind of show what the titration process looks like. So if you can see closely that the solution is starting to turn pink, okay? And you can even see it's pink at the bottom, but if I swirl, it's going to go away. There it goes, okay? Again, the whole chocolate milk thing, if you leave chocolate sauce in your milk, it's going to sit there. If you, swirl it and mix it, it's going to eventually mix through. And so what's happening is that the sodium hydroxide is mixing thoroughly with the hydrochloric acid and it's neutralizing it. Slowly and surely, they are neutralizing each other, and eventually it's going to reach the end point where the neutralization is complete, and there's only going to be slightly more base in there at the end. So again, normally it takes place with a buret, and it's much more precise than what I'm doing. I'm just using a pipette since I don't have a buret with me. So I'm going to fast forward this and we're going to see how this ends up. Now normally it takes a long time. It's a very slow process. I usually say that titrations, they test lab friendships. They test your patience. They test how people are just being extremely patient. So as you get towards the end, the color tends to remain for longer because as you add more base, you're neutralizing acid. So every time I drop some base, slightly less acid in there. So it takes longer for the base to find acid. And so that's why you got to swirl it to make sure it all neutralizes. I feel like I'm getting close enough, or getting not close enough, but getting close. You can see close. I feel like one extra drop's I'm gonna ruin it. So normally what I would do is when I feel like I'm at the end, I would read my buret and I would see where I'm at. But I'm just gonna add one more to show you what happens when we get to the end. Again, you can see it's a pretty light pink. It's not crazy dark. I am there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you at least, I'm going to record how much volume I used, how much base I used. I know it's pretty much gone away again. I'm going to add one more drop. I'm going to see what happens. Woo. Okay. I think I'm done. So I'm going to let that sit for a little while. Now again, for a titration, the whole point is that you need to find out exactly how much base, in other words, how much of the sodium, can't see, how much of the sodium hydroxide that I use. And you need to do the math to figure out the concentration of the acid that I put in the flask. Okay, so I'm going to put all the numbers up here. But I just want to show you if you over titrate. So chemists or whoever work in the lab. Again, this is a perfect color pink at the end. It's extremely light, which means we're pretty much neutralized. Now again, there's slightly more base in there, but that's what the indicator does. In a base, it turns pink. And this is a very light pink. Now, if you over titrate, again, you saw the drops I was dropping. If you over titrate, I'm going to show you what's going on. Put in too much base on accident, and we get this dark pink. I think I said to some classes that you would learn to hate dark pink, and that's what happened. If you replay the video, or at least replay the last like 10 seconds, you can see I only added a couple extra drops. So all those drops in the beginning did nothing to the color, but at the end, a couple extra drops of the base makes it turn this doom-colored pink. Normally this would mean that you ruined your titration because you added too much, and so your data is ruined, okay? Because you can go back and add more acid, but that just ruins more of the measuring. So that's a titration in a nutshell, all right? Now normally in the lab we would do this multiple times to get a good average for the acid concentration, but in this case I'm just doing the one just so you could see. So I'm going to show you maybe up close. This would be known as a bad color pink, and the other one would be known as a good color pink. Cool.